Hello everyone. Welcome to VizConnect, connecting you with the art of data visualization and storytelling. My name is Sagar Kapoor. I'm part of customer success team at Tableau. VizConnect is a weekly global community call which helps you to connect with the art of data visualization and storytelling. We have a YouTube channel. Go ahead, subscribe to it. Some great content waiting for you. Connect to the LinkedIn group. Connect with each other and learn from each other. And follow the hashtag VizConnect on Twitter just to get updated with all the latest sessions of VizConnect. With that, congratulations to all the Tableau Public featured authors. You are an inspiration for all of us. Go ahead, follow them, and learn what drives them to go ahead and use Tableau and how you can go ahead and improve your learning with respect to it. With that, let me go ahead and introduce our for today. I have Hunter Hansen and Adam Mico. Hunter is a business analyst based in Denver, Colorado. As a vivid Tableau user, Hunter enjoys designing compelling data visualization and business dashboards to elevate user experience. He is an autism advocate. You can find his writing in the liveautistic.com and his videos on the Live Autistic on YouTube. Adam Mico works as a senior data analyst. He's also a Tableau social ambassador, Tableau public featured author in 2020, as well as a Michael Christini Community Leadership Award recipient in 2020. In addition, he blogs weekly with Priya, mentors, and also participates in leadership teams for VizConnect, Mentoring Meetup, and Tableau Magic. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Hunter.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction there, Sagar. Much appreciated. So hopefully everybody can hear me. It's so funny, like with just obviously since the pandemic, everybody's been much more like a Zoom adopter. However, I'm a WebEx guy. I've been using WebEx for too long, so this is a lot more familiar. So thanks for having me on this platform too, and for having Adam here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my keynote and appreciate y'all taking time this afternoon, evening, or possibly very early morning alongside me here to talk about a very interesting, I want to say future-facing topic when it comes to data visualization. And that's this intersection of neurodiversity and data. So I'm going to go ahead and get all my equipment set up. Hopefully we are good here. I can see the chats. Perfect. Yay. So welcome to Neurodiversity and Data. And this is going to be a talk about design and community. This is also going to be a joint act, as was mentioned. So I'm Hunter. I'm a business systems analyst, and where I intersect with this and neurodiversity is in my autism advocacy, again, on my YouTube channel, on my blog, Instagram, all the fun stuff, and occasionally on LinkedIn too. So I do have a little bit of a following there. Adam, did you want to say just a couple words to pepper and color your intro a little further?
Sure. You may know me generally as the host of the Tableau Public Featured cohorts, and I have worked with VizConnect for quite some time. It's been a while since I've participated in a VizConnect. My name is Adam Mico. I'm a senior data analyst. Work with a lot of people and initiatives, have fun working in that. And as far as autism is concerned, I'm not the autism advocate. Hunter is, but I happen to have autism and work with the community and kind of learn my way through many trials and tribulations over the years. So I'll be talking a little bit about that and how you can get yourself into a community even if you are neurodiverse or have an alignment with neurodiversity. If you're an introvert or whatnot, some of these tips may be able to help you.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. And then for the audience, just kind of in keeping with my style of like fielding questions, do feel welcome to use the chat. For me personally, really easy to kind of flit and, divert my attention to address questions in chat. I know we have like a Q&A and a poll, but hopefully we can, take some time for questions afterward, because this is an interesting topic. At least I think it's interesting. So I'm going to start with really defining and layering into the term that we use. So, obviously Adam and I both identify, align with autism because, hey, we're autistic. But neurodiversity does span kind of a wide range of different function, right? So we talk about really just mental difference and not deficit. So most commonly, if we look at like the literal Webster's dictionary definition, the concept of neurodiversity is really mental and identity based, where we look at individual differences in just brain function, social function, emotional function, where it is different but not less. And so, a lot of the advocacy is about reducing and normalizing the stigma of neurodiverse individuals. So just as, with those with physical disabilities, blindness, deafness, other elements of it that we normally think of in terms of accommodations, there is a broad spectrum of neurodiversity where, again, in some groups it's a disability, to some it affects them to where they really identify as disabled and need accommodations. Our goal is to really help broaden this kind of understanding and really pivot to make our work more accessible for the neurodiverse individuals around us and around you, and possibly right next to you, or you may be. So where does this mean? Where does this go in? So I will say that, the most common term or specific, really element and difference under neurodiversity is going to be autism and what's generally considered the autism spectrum. You'll notice we use many different terms for it. You may have seen this. I will just say from experience, it's okay to say somebody's autistic. It's autism, and then we can add some defining and differentiating criteria about needs. But then you may have also heard of others like ADHD or ADD, so the attention deficit, hyperactivity disorders. And then some of you may have also heard of dyslexia, and then dyspraxia, which is more of a physical, challenge and impairment that really affects motor control, Tourette's, and then one common one that's oddly common with the data visualization or data community, believe it or not, is dyscalculia, which is, really difficulty with maths and numerical concepts. I joke that I probably have this despite the fact that I work in a data field. I wasn't much for numbers in university. I'm still not, but I am passionate about analysis and data. So there's a broad overlap to when we talk about neurodiversity. The key is to be as inclusive as possible, really when it comes to mental diversity and difference of function. So steering into this, I will give some disclaimers that, again, because this is Adam and I, we are going to primarily come at this from an autistic point of view and experience. My joke is that I am not an autism expert, but my experience is my expertise. I was informally diagnosed pretty much at 16, but trust me, I was pretty well autistic since birth, and still am, but I was too. And I do want to be, again, mindful of the fact that data visualization as a practice, Tableau is amazing. It's how I got into it. It's how many others get into it. But these practices are going to fit far beyond just Tableau. So there's somebody I think who was mentioning a Tableau versus Power BI battle at their institution, and I just think, hey, the practices we discussed, you can take anywhere, and that's really liberating and amazing and great for the community. And then, as always, a very important caveat: we may be discussing medical topics, but mind you, I'm not a doctor, so please do not let this constitute medical advice. However, so I want to really highlight, this is a VizConnect section. I did see the word Tableau in this WebEx link, so I do want to park on a little bit of what makes Tableau special for us. And this is probably the brilliance of it, and something I hope we can impart to you, to where you may not be an autism or neurodiversity ally. You may just be a Tableau user, but you could be both. And I'm hoping by the end of this, I can help illustrate how Tableau and a little bit of extra knowledge help amplify that. So it's amazing for neurodivergent practitioners. I got hooked on it in my management career. So I pivoted from managing an org of 126 people to being a Tableau practitioner. It was an interesting trade, but I'm glad I made it. It really appeals to autistic individuals like visual acuity, those who really have a lateral thinking concept of just visualizing different concepts and shapes and in art. There's, since I have a little time, there's a wonderful documentary about a man named Daniel Tammet who his entire like mathematical concept and processing was entirely visual. Like he would make shapes for numbers. So there's an intersection in a lot of our community where the visual aspect is appealing enough. And then you look at the technical, the detail-oriented elements. I'm not this person, but some people really love getting into the nitty-gritties of calculated fields, if-then statements, Booleans, and others. And Tableau really appeals to the technical side, the deep focused elements of many autistic people. Additionally, it provides sufficient breadth and depth of interest. So there is some common humor among the autism community that we will just, try to know a little about a lot of topics, but then really deep dive into specific elements of others. Tableau offers that, to where Tableau allows you to converse and communicate with many broad lines of businesses and user groups, and you can speak Tableau to many different audiences, but then really dive deep into a given audience. And that appeals to like so many different autistic senses. And then as Adam's going to illustrate, uh, one thing that I think gives Tableau an edge is its community and the purpose and the tribe. So I'm sure that, of those of you here, you probably enjoy the company you keep, but there's something special about the company of enthusiasts that you may keep, those who are interested in like Formula One, football, what have you, chess, or even specific elements within that. So I mentioned football. I support Tottenham Hotspur. I may get along with other football fans, but I'm especially aligned with Spurs fans. And conversely, if you're an Arsenal fan, I'll do my best. So having those tribes is exceptionally helpful, and Tableau is its own tribe. And for the autism community, that's what helps us build a lot of social bridges that are otherwise difficult to cross and traverse. So that's really how it helps us as practitioners. But I want to turn the table around a little bit to share how it's great for us, but how is it great for us? And I'm talking to you in relation to your users, your neurodiverse users. So I want to start thinking a little bit about design and the audience. I mean, if you look on LinkedIn and elsewhere, you'll find who employs me. I don't mention that publicly, but my company is very focused on design. And personally, I think design is a human element where you learn some technical aspects. It's intuitive, accessible, like you can go really like very detailed on the philosophies, but ultimately the more accessible you make it, the better it is, and the more neurodivergent friendly it becomes, the more of an audience you can bring in with it. So I want to speak to some of these points and kind of give like an autistic conversation about neurodivergent friendly design. A lot of this may seem really basic, but knowing why you do something basic makes it foundational and purposeful. It's a way to say, oh, instead of, oh, I just do this as a practice, I do this because it's accommodating. And that's the brilliant part. So, giving you like kind of the autistic inner monologue, nomenclature and text fields, those can be really difficult because you work with data, you work with rows and column names, and it's more of like written for database engineers and not necessarily users. So sometimes I struggle to translate or understand these. In addition, ambiguity is a challenge. we often don't quickly parse the intended meaning of something in speech or social convention. We just don't. That's autism for you. So, when text in and of itself is ambiguous, there's a little bit of a concern. Like if I see something as ID, I'm like, what kind of ID are they talking about? Like, all right, does this stand for something? Like, do we need to specify what kind of ID it is? I don't want to say what it is just because of my work, but it's like, okay, I need something way more specific here so I can parse what this is. So one thing that, really helps is when you find your audience struggling to intuit meaning. So the big help here is to where we can make it as clear but as elegant as possible. So I know I mentioned ID, but you will see fields, just kind of spat out of a database. And, the temptation is, hey, let me just build this into Tableau and just throw it out there the same way. Uh, don't. You can definitely use aliases. You can definitely spell things out. And even with the examples I provided, like I joke, like week is a good one, but I'd rather have fiscal week because there's the calendar week and then there's the fiscal week on our fiscal calendar. It's not always obvious. And like one thing I bug people about is that lazy design it's disrespectful. You can really impart respect to a user with clear, unambiguous design. One other thing, and I know we talked about these other points, but tooltips. If I'm doing a dashboard review, the first thing I look at is, did they remember to do this in the tooltips so that when I'm being presented with explanatory information, do I have enough plain, unambiguous language to tell me what this is telling me without me having to furrow my brow and figure out, like, okay, why didn't they show the right kind of care, attention, and design at this level? So that's with text. The other bit is the sensory aspect of the neurodivergent and autistic experience. So you may have seen some terms like sensory safe spaces or things that have come up in classrooms lately, but within autism, each of us have different challenges when it comes to sensory overload. So mine, or not mine, but many others have trouble with noise and volume. And I did as a young child. I just couldn't go to a shopping mall because of the constant chaos. I couldn't process it. I didn't have the ability to take all of that and filter it out. For many adults, it's difficult. It's still difficult when I have too much going on. For others, it's tactile. I get made fun of because I will change my outfit multiple times a day. Not because it's a show, but because of I just don't like the way this feels anymore, and it bothers me. Like this shirt actually does bother me, but the color looks okay. But then color is another one. Like this one, I tried to pick. I didn't do a pie chart because I respect my Tableau audience, but I picked a donut chart to just show discordant colors, and this is also a difficult sensory process for many autistic people to where it's too bright. The contrast is too great. And it makes our processing of the visual more difficult and less harmonious. So I know that we're talking about, like hopefully color experts. But again, remember that your audience may not have adapted to processing difficult to process colors. I love a stacked bar chart. I love like area like stacked area charts and the many different colors, but even sometimes it's too much for me. So I like to look for some more harmony. If you would like some tips in a better way, these are obvious, but again, less is more. Where your business or where your design permits, the fewer colors, the better, and the more muted, really just the less it's trying to be in your face and offensive, the more neurodivergent friendly it's going to be. One thing I like is if I'm ever in doubt or if I want to think, how do my color choices respect multiple audiences? I look out my window. Colorado is a beautiful state here in the United States, and there's a lot of examples in nature just to show the differing color palettes and the way that, you will see, blues and browns and greens interact and at what intensity and in what shade. And there's a lot of natural element that can help. And, we as humans, we're predisposed not to react so strongly to nature. We're just used to it by now. You can use nature's color benefit to your benefit in design too. So when in doubt, look out your window, check a color wheel like artists use and painters use just to show what colors go through. Again, this may seem obvious, but there's some choices that just don't sit right. And like even this red, I would probably revisit and try to find a softer but still differentiated hue. So then again, this is also probably practical, but I won't show you my desk. It is a little cluttered, but one common struggle among autistic people is just having the plenitude of choice and having to process through multiple variations and elements, even visually. So if you, I'm sure, you know, some of you back before the pandemic went to restaurants to eat. I enjoy fine dining because I can look on a menu and there are 6 options, and it's usually one course, and I don't have an option. But I remember in Paris, I was like, wow, I had 3 different menus to choose from. They each only had 3 courses. This was easy. In America, we have a lot of chains, and the menu's a book. There's just too many choices, and it's hard to process that all at once. We can, but it takes time and it detracts. It's the same thing with visual processing, and dashboards can definitely fall into this trap to where you may want to put everything on your first dashboard, but that kind of process overwhelms the hidden neurodivergent user base who is not going to like having to triage and assess 16 different elements. And I think neurotypical people struggle with that too. So I look at it in terms of clutter. I'm looking at my desk, and it's because I can't see it in my periphery, I don't notice it. But even my desk here, I've taken the clutter off of it because I don't want to see it at eye level. So this can really hinder decision making, which is why, again, decluttering. I preach this, you know, very consistently, not just because it's good practice, but it's neurodivergent friendly. Some of the things where you know, where I kind of admonish that we like to dig into details, as many of your users do. I like to cleverly introduce legends in a way that integrates within the design without being a distracting element. And again, it follows a similar principle, less being more, to where it's not too sparse. But I will admit, you know, sometimes you get put in a spot to where, like on this last point, it's a hard choice. If you've got to fit it on one page, what do you do with that? So I shared this example, which I can't show you. I can't really show you anything I do in Tableau, but I do feel that, you know, you're going to have some areas where you have to compromise, knowing if you really know your audience, if you know it's a very narrow group, or if it's a broad group to where I have to get all this on one page. What do I do? Where do I limit the digging? And I think the battle is just knowing where to compromise. For this one, you know, I'll just say we had to list a top N of a certain thing, but I restricted it to where those categories were few and far between. So it's the top N of something rather than the top everything of a given data point. Got to be very vague here. So, but again, trying to like balance the economy of what I put on a dashboard to where it makes sense for me, it makes sense for an audience, but also is as neurodivergent friendly as possible, keeping all the following points in mind. So, you know, as we've ambled through this talk, I'm sure you're wondering, like, Hunter, this is basic, but yeah, don't we talk about the basics in all of our disciplines? So I want to think about this instead of looking at it as like this is just basic design. It's foundational. It's intentional. And you may be doing this already, and congratulations. If you are actually a neurodiversity ally. Thank you. Appreciate you working toward that end. And you can claim this and really highlight your basics as, intentional for the purpose of reducing ambiguity, not being disrespectful to neurodivergent audiences. So this is really great. And again, I think of it in more foundational terms really helps make it more accessible for everybody. And I will throw this out that I've shared most of my processing preferences, triggers, where I struggle, where I've learned to adapt. But if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Adam and I are very different. I mean, we're on the same autism spectrum. There are some convergences, but we also diverge in other areas. The things that may be difficult for me on a sensory level may not be difficult for others, or may be extremely difficult, or other preferences where, you get different appreciation for technical elements, people more averse to digging. So again, trying to keep it as broad as possible, but knowing that we may be very different people because people are different. And then I think the last bit is, even if you're the one doing it and making all these practices great, try to do, to use some proverbial wisdom, go and do thou likewise. This is where you are here probably because you're not just a casual Tableau user. I mean, if I looked at the attendees list, I can spot some names and realize that if you just use Tableau for your job day in, day out, and then it's done, you wouldn't be here. You probably, speak Tableau and converse with it and help guide others in its usage. This is where you can help inform and consult and help guide on other people's designs and what they do, and even bring in like, hey, this is really great, but to make this more accessible, here's what we could do, dot, dot, dot. And coming from you, that's going to mean a lot to us. So not only will you be a direct ally for neurodivergent people like myself and Adam, but an indirect ally to help move others, not from ignorance, but from pre-enlightenment to enlightenment. I kind of like looking at it like that way, because if you don't know, you don't know. But now you all know. So I'm happy to welcome you as new neurodivergent-friendly allies in terms of Tableau design. And to take this even further, I'm gonna spin this over to Adam to talk a little bit about community and really how Tableau brings autism, data design, and our community together. So I'll stop sharing, and Adam, over to you.
Thank you so much, Hunter. 1 second, I'll share my content. And so I'm just so happy to follow Hunter Hansen. He was the person that really got me involved with the community as being okay with having autism. Before I noticed his blog and so forth, I was like, should I keep it quiet? Why does it have to come out? But learning about what his work has meant to me and meant to so many others, I was very proud of coming out in that way, and having a space to share that and my perspective in that approach. So what I'll be sharing today is the DATAFAM and Autism, a match made in data. This presentation is targeted to autistic people primarily, but with that, there may be some value to people who feel as though they've been outsiders, have a separate neurodivergent related condition, and introverts. So before I get into that too much, I'm going to just give you a brief history of what I went through before I was part of the community. So before I was part of the community, I was 44 years old, was diagnosed autistic for around 10 years or close to 10 years at that point. I worked as a senior data analyst, and I was a bit of a disengaged hermit. So even though I was pretty friendless, I was fortunate enough person with autism. I had a stable career. I was married for 20 plus years and have a grown kid. I worked toward my dream job and reached its peak. But at that point, I just wanted to use my remote control and click through my life until retirement. A time where I could just retire in Thailand and maybe binge on Netflix or whatnot for a very extended period of time, and that would be it. But I wanted to give a community one last chance. So with that, fast forward a year later, I happen to be 45 years old, 44 plus one. Was fortunate enough to be honored with the Community Leadership Award in 2020. In the previous year, I earned Notable Newbie Vizzy Award in 2019. And those are community awards voted by people in our community and it's shared during the Tableau conference. So both were very shocking, humbling, and just a super great honor. I didn't think it was possible for me, of all people, to have an opportunity to even be nominated, let alone earn those awards. In 2020, I was very shocked and humbled again when I received a nod to become a Tableau Social Ambassador. it's kind of funny. You think of an autism person that's a hermit that turns out to be a social ambassador. But I was fortunate enough to be that. 2020 as well, I was a Tableau Public featured author, and I work on a number of initiatives and subcommunities and leadership type roles. And those include mentoring Meetup, VizConnect, and Tableau Magicians. So what changed? So there's a big difference between what happened when I was 44 and what happened when I was 45. So in the past, I had some problems with communities because I didn't feel like I was a true part of one. I was either disinterested or didn't feel really accepted. So with Tableau, I wanted to give it one more chance. Either I was going to click through for the next 13 years or just say, hey, I want to find some fulfillment with people, even though I'm naturally a hermit. So I did love the software. It did help me a lot at work. And through Tuan Wang of Tableau Magicians, he kind of nudged me over and said, hey, you should try to join Twitter and follow people and work with people there as well. So from the get-go, I wasn't only engaged because there was just so many different places where you could feel like you could be part of and contribute. And I think at least for me and where I come from, if there's no sense of purpose or impact, there's nothing for me to do or anything I really care about. So with this community, there's so many opportunities to amplify others, work toward common goals. They accepted me pretty much right away and welcomed my participation in many initiatives. And this was before I won a Vizzy or became a social ambassador. So regardless of titles, it gave you an opportunity to do a lot of stuff if you're interested. This is a type of community that gives you so much more than you can possibly give it if you work at it and work toward the people in that community. So now it feels like I have a bit of a net now, as opposed to just being in an island by myself and isolated in isolation, waiting for the next 13 years to pass so I could retire. So there's a lot of myths when it comes to autistic people. A lot of people think that autistic people dislike people. Some may, but from my experience, it's not about that. It's more about it just feels that you're not part of anything. So if you're like many introverts, if social interactions may drain you. A lot of things, at least from my perspective, if you engage in a lot of small talk, that's very, very draining. I generally like people that have a shared interest, those that can work on contextual issues. I have difficulty seeing, so I could help you. And if you could help me a little bit understand more of the context, especially in tricky social situations, it's very, very helpful. People also understand that the need that we need to have to take a break, which is very helpful for me because sometimes it seems like I go 120 miles per hour 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But that's not the truth at all. There are times where I just need to step back and take a break. This community really understands that and appreciates that and works with me. And at the end, you could kind of work together on something very impactful. So another myth is that autistic people cannot build relationships. It's not natural to a lot of us. It takes a lot of failed attempts. It's hard to find and muster up the motivation to do so. And it's hard for other people to see you for what you are and realize that they need to give you breaks and give you an opportunity to work with them in order to make sure that they have an opportunity to build a relationship with you. Just like neurotypical people, neurodivergent people have issues, and it's something that if you work together and they could see you for what you are, even though you don't understand each other very well, you can work towards some sort of understanding. What people generally get from autistic people, and this is just a general rule of thumb, is that when we find somebody that we could trust, we tend to be very loyal to those people. we tend to be honest, and we try to be helpful people. We often are go-to people if you need logical problem solver or objective reasoning. Generally, an emotion is one of the few things that it's difficult for us to work with, but we more than make up for that by giving logical breakdowns of issues and stuff that you may have to break down in that way rather than an emotional perspective. Another one is that all autistic people are nonverbal. We tend to just stick at home, play on our computers, mute everything. As far as being nonverbal, a lot of times that's my preference, is that I could do stuff on email or I could do stuff on that way and other ways, but there's a give and take just like with everything else, and that we have to learn to be more verbal and help. And as long as we have help from other people to be more verbal, and people realize and want to work with us in that way, we could find ways to troubleshoot and improve on that. It tends to take longer for us and may never be perfected. But with many years and a number of false starts, we can improve and learn how to be prepared to work with people in that manner too, because we understand that people like to talk, and it's important that we're able to talk as well and make sure that we could share a relationship that's verbal as well as nonverbal. So if you throw me a DM, you may get a quicker response, and I may have to prepare a little bit for a verbal conversation. But again, we will do that as long as you have our backs as well. Another myth is that autistic people cannot participate well in communities that aren't autistic focused. So generally, we thrive in communities with a common interest. If there's a common interest that we have and that we can contribute to, we may talk forever. And the limited social divides that we have kind of can be overwhelmed by our commitment to that common interest. As long as you're willing to accept that things may not come out as clearly as you want, or that there may be some false starts from that person's perspective, it's great that you could include people with different skill sets as far as being part of a community and so forth. If you love Tableau or data visualization, our DATAFAM is a great community for autistic people. Because my experience is that I've never been any sort of because I'm autistic, they haven't stigmatized me for that. Quite the opposite. They just have been very welcoming because I've been honest in sharing with them. So what makes the DATAFAM autism friendly? So the community focuses on a topic many people with autism can appreciate: data analysis. It's something that aligns well with autistic people and how we process information. Design, as Hunter talked about so eloquently, comes a little bit less naturally, but still is of interest because it's something that is part of the data analysis that's really important to us, so we can have a way to speak a common language to people that aren't neurodivergent. So our DATAFAM focuses on inclusion, and as I mentioned earlier, destigmatizes autism. So with people like Hunter sharing his experience with autism, and my experience as an out one, I never felt the freedom to do that before with any other communities. Before I was part of this community, there's only a handful of people that knew from my saying so what I was. So it was very important that, and it was very important for me to share that and be part of something and have that open discourse. Another thing is that there's so many ways that you could find to make an impact or find purpose. There are so many little projects and initiatives that are going on. You could be part of Makeover Monday. You could be part of different Viz projects. You could be part of Viz for Social Good. You could share a blog and talk about your experiences. There's so many different things that you could do in our community. And there's so many opportunities to give back, level up your skills, and network in a safe space. So having that security and opportunities makes the desire to participate so much stronger. So anytime I need a lift up or anything like that, it's fun to look at my feed either on Twitter or LinkedIn and see what people are doing with design or trying to make the place a little bit better than it was before. Through our shared interests, people with autism can more readily find friendships and social purpose. So it's hard sometimes to feel that you have some sort of social purpose or feel like you belong anywhere. But with the initiatives in our community, it makes it a lot more a friendly place and a safe space to be involved in something like that. And another thing is that naturally when you spend more time with people, if you're open to friendships, whether autistic or not, and help look for ways to make an impact, you'll have an opportunity to make more friends. Rather than being a hermit, rather than playing video games or just playing on a computer as an anonymous person, it's very good and comforting to know that there's people that have your back. It's difficult to be part of that at first, but then when you have more opportunity to work in that way and realize the impact it has and how good it makes you feel, those are great. You could have somebody to bounce ideas off of, you could laugh with, and they kind of become part of your family. So in this part, I said, I'm autistic, how can I get involved? It could be anybody in this space. So anybody that's neurodivergent, anybody that may be an introvert, somebody just afraid to be part of some sort of community that's been lurking in the background for a long time. There's so many things that you could do to be part of our family. So if you're ready to be part of our community and want to improve your database skills, decode soft skills, and make new friends, this community is amazing. So I'm personal living proof of autism's destigmatization in our community. In a year of dedicated community work, I somehow became a Tableau ambassador and selected to be part of leadership groups. These honors are so incredible for anybody, but it's rare with somebody with autism. There's a negative regard for neurodiverse people. I would have not been part of these leadership teams, part of an ambassador group, or even received or been nominated for Vizzy Awards. So it's important to know that there's really no stigma there as long as you let yourself out and honest with yourself in the community. So the first step is I would create a Tableau public profile. I'm sorry, Hunter. Hunter is a blogger and he doesn't really have a Tableau public profile, but he was able to find a unique way to get into the community. So that's a little bit different than most people, but what I would share for most people would be to create a Tableau public profile and share a Viz. So it's a completely free space where you could just download the public application or download the newest version of desktop for free for 2 weeks, create a Viz and publish it. You could put it on Twitter, get feedback, and immediately boost your skills. So to do that, you search for hashtag DATAFAM on Twitter or LinkedIn to see people that are part of the community. There are many times that you'll see when you look for searches for Vizes and so forth, resources or just fun in our community. If you search hashtag DATAFAM, primarily on Twitter, that seems to be the place where a lot of people do a combination of fun, chatting, and visiting as well and sharing their resources. LinkedIn is more for primarily business. So if you're working in LinkedIn and look up DATAFAM, a lot of it you'll see our initiative purpose or Viz purpose, but it's not a place where you stop and chat and really build relationships. You can there, but it's a little bit more difficult. There are so many initiatives in our community, and it's pretty much for anybody that wants to participate. So if you want to be part of something, it's pretty easy to be part of something in our community. You may not have a leadership role right away or anything like that, but it's fun to be part of something and contribute to a Viz initiative or whatever initiative's going on. And if you want more information on free resources, tools, or even an intro to the community, look me up. I'll share my information soon. And that's my information. So you could find me on Facebook. I'm part of Tableau Magicians, so it's a group on there. It's a micro community with I believe 8,000 people now. So that's a place that you could chat about business in a closed group. I'm on Twitter at Adam Mico1. LinkedIn, just look at Adam Mico, and Tableau Public, again, it's Adam Mico. So all those places you could find me. And if you have any questions about that and don't want to chat or have your question answered here, feel free to look me up. Hunter will be happy to introduce you or talk to you or point you in the right direction as well, I would imagine. So with that, that's pretty much all I have. And I see there's a red dot for chat. So I'll stop sharing the screen right now.
Oh no, that was me. Just you know what I know I normally joke because I'll tell you I'm like, oh, I don't have time for Tableau Public, and look, I mean, it's true, I don't, but you make the time. So if you are able to make the time and you're really passionate about joining the community, I cannot underscore enough, like Adam is just one of like the coolest success stories when it comes to professional autistic individuals doing what we all wanted to grow up and dream about, which was to be like popular and be part of a community and be embraced and be one of the cool kids. And Adam just went up and did it. And I mean, that's a testament to not just really his willingness to be a little more brave with this, but also for really the community here in Tableau and the enthusiasm of data visualization practitioners. So I think it's an awesome testament to both here. So I appreciate you sharing your story, man. It is a bit of an inspiration.
Thank you so much, Hunter. You've been a huge inspiration for me, obviously, as I pointed out earlier. And I guess my point would be is if you're taking part in the community, don't expect much out of it. I came in with no expectations. So everything that came good of it was made me feel very, it was very uplifting. And I took more time to try to appreciate the improvement and encourage others. And it seems like the more that you give to people, the more that you get back, even though that's not your intention. It works that way in this community. Many other communities in the past, not so much. So it's great to have some sort of community where that could be something that could benefit you if you really want to give and have a chance to get back. It's just great to be part of. And another thing is that when you're in our community and you follow a lot of people in our community, there's no, it's like an endless stream of inspiration and things that can lift you up. Most of the stuff that comes out is either a great biz that you are inspired by, or somebody has great news, or there's another initiative popping up that's really cool. There's so many initiatives, there's no way that you could kind of run out of those initiatives. So it's kind of fun to be part of. And it's fun that Hunter took an unusual approach and it still worked out for him. He has no Tableau Public profile. He rarely talks about visiting in his blog, but the community has embraced him very much. And he helped me be okay with what I am and come from it from a real perspective, as opposed to coming up and masking. I don't have to do that now. And a lot of that's thanks to Hunter. I still mask a little bit, but
it's let's keep the good vibes rolling, man. So yeah, that's a minted quote there.
But not as much.
Perfect. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Adam. I think
thanks, Cigar.
I hope it will inspire everyone in the community to go ahead and participate in all the community activities. And one thing, and this is something when I got connected with Adam, right? I was I think I was not aware about that Adam was autistic that time, right? And that was not the point when we reach out to him. I think that was the passion he has for the community, the passion he had in helping others in the community. I think that one reason I was excited to go ahead and invite him for VizConnect. So I think it's all about mindset, right? The limitation is inside your head. If you want to go ahead, achieve something, just explore it out, plan it out, and then you will go ahead and achieve it.
It's been about a year, Cigar, that I've been part of the family. So it's great to be. It's hard to believe it's been about a year already, but I think it has been. So, yeah, I was truly honored, and it wasn't something I was expecting at all or anything like that. It was a true honor, and it was just because I was part of the community. I wasn't really reaching for it or anything like that. It just kind of happened, because a lot of it's giving back, and you apparently noticed that somehow. And then it was I felt very fortunate to be asked. So, and that's happened with a number of initiatives I'm involved with. So you could be autistic and still reach whatever plateau you want to reach. I guess I'm kind of living proof of that. Even though I never really set out for it, but it's truly an honor to be part of all that stuff.
Thank you, Adam. And maybe Hunter, this is a question for you. Like in terms of when you started your journey with respect to Tableau, what are some of 2 or 3 things which you went ahead and invested in yourself, right? Just to make sure you're going ahead, learning. As you mentioned, you don't have a Tableau public profile, but what are some of the other ways you go ahead and continue your learning right now with respect to this tool?
Ooh, yeah. So, the way I latched onto it is probably different, but some of you may align with it. So when Adam talks about like joining the community, I look at it as again like a sporting event of some sort where I don't play professional football, but I can very intently observe and soak in a lot of intelligence and watch games and matches and see what others do. I would almost encourage that same with Tableau. Twitter's great because you get a constant feed of inspiration to where you're engaging passive learning and applying it actively in some cases. For me, because the time I make is just dedicated to many different things, I have to take a lot of the passive insights, the makeover Mondays, the Biz of the Week, and kind of like follow a lot of this so that I have a little bit more packaging in Tableau. But yeah, when push comes to shove, a lot of it is just really trying to find a creative, practical solution. And yeah, I mean, I've gleaned a lot from the community when it comes down to how do I build something elevated and elegant for my business. And then there I am going on Lindsay Poulter's blog or, checking, like I see Jim in the presentation, like I've seen his comments on the forums helping solve creative challenges with dates. So I think keeping an open mind to where you are a constant observer at the very least, you're actively keeping those channels open to like get a lot of inspiration. I will admit I have not taken many Tableau classes. It'd be nice to stop and actually learn this tool for once, but no, our business moves very quickly, so it is a lot of learning by doing. And you may be like that to where I'm as an adult, I struggle to just sit and learn. But if it's, hey, I need this due in 2 weeks, well, I've got to learn it. Sometimes that artificial pressure really helps. So that's helped me, but those are some of the ways I've stayed engaged and developed and connected to the community. And yeah, Tableau conference. Back when we did those, that was a huge quantum leap for me in my learning too.
Okay. And for you, Hunter, like what was the importance of maybe feedback, or did you have a mentor in your journey when you were learning Tableau?
I would say it was probably more mentors by committee. Like there were people's designs that I grew to appreciate. I don't I can't really speak to internal stuff, so I didn't have a very specific mentor, but I would reach out to people whose designs or technical ability I appreciated. So this is going to sound so bad, but I'm a very good designer even among my peers. So I don't often reach out to others on their design because I'm usually figuring this out or finding out like, oh, let me like master the art of padding. So they usually come to me for this. But those who are good, I will ask, hey, I noticed like you really had a clever implementation on this. How'd you do it? Like, let me download that workbook so I can rip it. But I do actually stay engaged with people who, this may help too. I do not have the um, really interest or desire to understand the intricacies of order of operations, calculated fields. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not a passion of mine. So I found people for whom it is a passion. There's a peer at work who's brilliant with, LOD calculations. So I've leveraged his passion to help inform one of mine, which is more design and really just building visualizations as graphical intuitive elements. So I think if you are going to pick a mentor, find someone who's very passionate about their topic, because that passion will bleed over and kind of help inspire you even in that domain, but make you feel more inspired about your own work too. So that's my best guidance. I don't have any specific names, but just kind of what specific people do as the mentor ideal.
Perfect. Thank you, Hunter. And Adam, like over to you. I think everyone is aware about your Tableau journey, but how do you keep yourself, I think, up the pace with respect to learnings in Tableau? And what will be your advice to someone who's just starting new with Tableau, and how they should go ahead and push themselves in terms of maybe improving their data visualization and storytelling skills?
Great question. Uh, Basically, as far as my journey was concerned, I was at work for 4 years and did basically the same thing over and over again. Not very inspiring. The fun part was the calculations and the logic involved to create a problem solve and get the data to where it works correctly in what you're doing. That stuff was all fun. Design was very secondary for me. I generally designed for people that were non-techie people, so I just had to keep it simple. So being part of the community really inspired me to push myself. That initially started with Tuan Wang and his Udemy course, and then it stemmed from there by seeing all the works in the community. With Tableau, if you have a desktop license, or you don't even have to have a desktop license now to get access to somebody's work, you could look at how they did something and get inspired. There's so many blogs out there that you could look at and recreate. Most of them are very well written, basically a professional level of writing on a lot of these blogs, where if you want to make a specific chart type or practice something that's something that you haven't done before, it's really kind of easy to learn because of how well a lot of these community blogs are written. The Tableau twins, the Florlich brothers are a great example. Tableau magicians, of course, and there are just so many others that create just amazing tutorials that you can work at and improve your skills. Also, when you're working with people and talking with people in our community, you can get a lot of inspiration and input from them. So you can go with other people, and if you're working on a viz or something, you can inquire about feedback and what they would do. Work with people that have different skill sets than you, so you could kind of understand better from where they're coming, and then improve your skills in that regard. Designing was very difficult for me. It took me a very long time to be an adequate designer, because that wasn't my interest or passion at the outset, but it was a fun thing to hack. And after a long time of working on it, I'm an okay designer now. And it's helped because I've been following a lot of people in the community, learning different things that are going on, what works best for most people, what to highlight color-wise, fonts, in charting. All that stuff has helped me out since I've been part of the community, and that's helped me in my journey get to where I'm going at, besides just being very involved in our community.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Adam, for that. I think with that, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Hunter. I think it was an honor to have you on VizConnect. And yep, thank you for inspiring us and looking forward to learn more from you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Perfect. I think with that, thank you everyone for joining. Be safe, take care, happy weekend, and we will see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers. Thank you.